that's something we could consider here. If anybody's interested, let me know. I know the years that I have met with the mastermind group, my life is just completely on fire. They say 2 to 3 people, or maybe 4 is best. People you don't know too well, because people we know sometimes we're afraid to really say what we really want to them, or we might feel, or they may judge us based on our past history. So, something that my mother has shared with me a few months ago was that in our Western culture, often when something negative is happening in our lives, we often say, "Why God? Why is this happening to me?" And why me? Why, and why do I have to suffer? And why is this happening? And in Eastern philosophy, a lot of cultures, they look at life as a journey. And there are going to be ups and downs. And a lot of the downs they look at as incredible opportunities for expanded growth. And when we're thinking about our goals and what we want to set in life for ourselves, it's really important to realize that a lot of times when we are in those low points, that they are giving us an opportunity for expanded growth. And we have a chance it's anytime we focus positive energy, and we don't look at something as like that car incident that my family had, and there's many others where you just make lemonade out of lemons and you move forward. I remember I was at a conference once, and one of the women who was sharing there about patience. There were 2 people who both changed my life in that moment. I know I shared with some of you one of the stories, which it was a little workshop on patience, and the one guy, the moderator asked us each to share, and one of the people said that he called an airline to try to change his flight because he wasn't going to be able to make it, and they said he couldn't change it. The change fee was going to be more than he paid for his ticket. And instead of getting upset or asking for a manager, he said, this person can't help me. And he hung up and he called back. And he got somebody else who said, I'm from that city, and they changed it and there was no fee. I've done that so many times in so many scenarios, and it has worked. But then I remember another person shared, and she said that she was trying to fly home from Christmas from Europe, and she got stuck. And she was stuck in this layover in Germany, and she's like, and she was frustrated, and there was a person sitting there, and she said, instead of getting all upset and not being present, I'm going to realize there must be a reason I'm stuck here for 8 hours. I'm going to be delayed getting home for Christmas. And, she ended up really having an ability to connect with the person who was next to her, and really they were going through some things she knew something about and was able to be there for them. And she could feel that it was meant for her to be there and to be present and not miss the moment. And I think in our lives we have to always keep that in mind. Are we present? Is this goal, this or something better, that part of masterminding that's so important. Speaking of which, I brought a few props besides the wrench. So, account of change. These, are shoes that my mother bought traveling in Europe on a road trip in the 60s. For her son when she had him, or daughter. That would have been Heather. But she, had me wear these when I was a child. She had to let me do a lot of weird things. But anyway, they, as I grew up, knowing, and we had she'd given me these little houses from Holland, I thought there was some connection there. And I went there several times, and I loved it. I had a great time, but I'm not meant to live there or really experience it. I'm more connected to Italy, and other places. And when I decided to make this last move, I was looking all over the country. I narrowed myself down to about 10 cities and 30 houses. And of those, there were about 6 or 7 houses that I was equally interested in. For whatever reason, and this is the power of, something that's in the flow and not in the flow. Because sometimes we're trying to achieve goals that are really not what's best for us. And it's not so bad that we make a mistake and then we try something. And I'm sure we've all bought something. I had a Range Rover once, never, ever, 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 ever again. So, $1,200 a month in repairs. It was so, and my parents had a beach house that they never would want to have again, because maintaining multiple places is exhausting, and having it broken into when you're not there. But in my case, when I'm looking at all these properties, and I had like saved them all in different places online, there was only one I printed out. Because when I looked at it, every room, I could see how it would be. And it wasn't that I was more interested in buying this house. Georgia? My mom was very prejudiced against the South based on her civil rights activism back in the 60s and traveling around the South. And so, I had this perception it was still like that because that's what she drilled into me. But this house in Georgia was such a good deal. And I just imagined every room in it because it was so easy. And then, I printed it out because I wanted to try painting a red tile roof on it and a blue tile roof. I'd seen that, down in Florida and in Europe. And so, I did. And, I took that away. And then I found another house I was going to buy, and then, I had to take a huge price reduction on my house. And that I was selling in Florida, as it was broken into just before the closing. I lost a sale, and I had to think of things, and then, just a bunch of stuff lined up and fell in place for me to end up looking at this house in Georgia again. And I bought it sight unseen, not knowing where I was moving, and after my bid was accepted, and I thought, oh no, what have I done, I don't know what are they going to expect, can I get out of this, and I just said, I think I manifested this. It's the only house I printed, and I thought, And then, again, I found this again the other day, and I thought, yeah, I said, that's true. Well, now, I've run out of money to renovate my house, so I'm buying mismatched paints. I'm good at mixing color. But I decided to do blue shutters. Bright blue, Greek blue shutters, with the white house and the kind of a butter trim color trim elsewhere. And as I was getting ready to do this talk, I pulled this out, and I thought, that's the only one I have left. I don't have the one with the red tile painted on it. And I thought, there's the blue. And it's, and my mother, when I was going over what I was going to talk about today with her on the phone, she was saying, when I took the job for Providence Hospital, and my corporate office was in Seattle, and I moved into this apartment, and I decorated it, and this French theme, and I was sitting in my breakfast nook, and I looked out at this beautiful view, and I looked over and I saw there was a refrigerator magnet I had bought a couple years before that I had stuck on the refrigerator, brought from our other house. And she said there it was, this French little table, bistro table, with this corner window overlooking the Space Needle. And there was this cat. It was black and white with a little mustache in the picture. And there I had this cat that had crawled in my window and demanded to be fed every day. That looked exactly like that cat. And I said, I cannot believe I have the exact view, the exact table, and the cat showed up. And it is true how we can intentionally and unintentionally mastermind and create for ourselves what we want. And with that in mind, yesterday when I opened Facebook, I saw a raccoon family, a cougar cub and mother had babies on somebody's roof, and he had a hidden camera, and it was adorable. And I said, I am not going to wish for this. Because I wanted a raccoon for years, and I ended up with 20 flea-infested raccoons living under my house in Florida. So I didn't want to create that for myself. But going back to our lives and the roadmap to our lives, and our best self. If you really have something you want in your life, or something you want to take on as a person, there is going back to what I said earlier, the value of writing it down, getting an image of it, researching it, making it a habit to think about that and know everything about it, because in that research you may find that it leads you to another path, and also to just focus some meditation, prayer, or just your mind in a quiet state, on this. Does it feel right? Does it not feel right? Because sometimes, when one door closes, there's another one that opens that is much broader and more beautiful. Like me, I never expected to be here. And I found myself in a sweet spot, with wonderful people around me and wonderful energy in a house that I've never been happier in. And I would have never expected that. And I don't think that would have happened necessarily in any of the locations I was looking at. And I think it's just, you know, the power of the universe guiding us and the power of having some sort of roadmap and clarity on what we want to reach. And if we put a little work into our road trip and planning it, just like we would our lives, and put a little more energy hopefully there, we can accomplish great things. So, thank you.